If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And indeed, here we are. Let's get right into it. I mentioned just a few moments ago on the Discord when I posted the this live streaming session that the first thing I was going to cover is Blender as a free video editing tool. People ask pretty frequently, actually, in the chat about, well, it's usually about animation tools, but sometimes they'll ask about video tools too. I use Sony Vegas, which is not actually a Sony product anymore. It's now a Magix product, but whatever. I mean, Vegas is a solid editor, and I think you can get into Vegas for, I'm going to guess, somewhere between $50 and $500, depending on what capabilities you buy, but it's probably cheaper than it used to be. The full-blown version used to be like $500. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. The question that came up for me was, is Blender as a video editor really a good, viable solution? Well, here's the deal. Actually, I would say for people who are doing animation, it may be better than Vegas, at least in terms of smoothness of workflow. Here's why. If I jump over here to my, this is the Faststone image viewer. It's just the image viewer I use. It lets me do quick, previews of videos, and then I can browse folders and, I said videos, I meant images. But if I just grab the first image here, and then I'll go back to my Blender screen, and I just drag it in like this. Okay, now this is going to be treated as a single image, okay? But over here, if I just go change data files, Blender is smart enough to go to that folder, okay? The folder where the image came from. And then if I just hit the A key to select all and then change data files, now it sees it as an image sequence. So dealing with image sequence is actually a lot faster in Vegas, or I'm sorry, in Blender than in Vegas. And for those who are concerned about like, what about editing? What if I have to cut this or something? Well, you just hit the K key and you cut it. And you say, well, what if I have to ripple edit or close the gap? Well, you just hit the backspace key and Blender closes any gaps that occur. You say, well, what if I have a section here of my show that's all edited and I really just want to pack it all together as a single group? Well, you make it into a meta strip. Okay, and then it treats this, any number of layers or tracks can be combined into a meta strip. You say, well, yeah, but what if I need to do something with that meta strip? It turns out that I need to change something. Well, you just unmeta the strip. So in just a couple minutes there, I've really covered a lot of what comes up in practical. Hey, Maria, what comes up in practical terms of, just the grind of editing. You're dragging in sources, you're moving them around, you're changing the order, you're cutting them in half. If you can, which you can, you combine them into groups, and so that you can treat a collection of things as a single unit. So then you say, well, yeah, but what about how I view my video edit? Well, actually, Blender is better than Vegas, because in Vegas, you're kind of locked to the screen, and you can make it a full screen preview, but then you have to select like either best, full, half, or quarter resolution. Back over here in Blender, you just zoom in. You can just zoom in, and probably these hotkeys 1, 2, and 4 work. So this would be quarter view, 2 is half view, 1 is full size. I believe Shift, what is the hotkey? They've changed it in Blender 2.8 compared to what it used to be, but the hotkey, I can't remember the hotkey for expanding this one panel into full screen, but you can do it. So anyway, conveniently in the default video editing view, like if I open up a new workspace that's video editing, it does include the file browser. So technically I don't really need to be using this image viewer, but I like the idea that I can just drag in one image and instantly convert it to an image sequence without having to browse around for the files, and it's pretty smooth and easy. So the one thing I don't know about at the moment is time shifting. If you want to have, in this case, it would not be unusual for me to have some stuff that I want to have playback at 24 frames per second and other stuff at 12 or 8. So how to change the playback timing on a per clip basis, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure there is a way, though, to remap the time, and I'm not going to try to find that right now. The other thing, though, that somebody might be concerned about is, well, what about color correction and whatnot? Now you're getting into stuff that's pretty far beyond what entry-level editors like Shotcut can do. And basically what you just have here is modifiers. You just add a modifier. So you can add a color balance modifier, which looks like any professional color balance modifier. I'm not a fan of using tons of color balance myself. I tend to favor curves for most operations. And so, but as you can see, you can do whatever the heck it is you think you want to do with your imagery using modifiers. I did notice, though, on the color balance, let me see this. Yes, one advantage you do have with color balance in Blender versus using curves is with curves you make an adjustment and then let go and then you see the result, whereas it looks to me like with the color balance everything is actually updating in real time as you're making changes. So this is quite useful. If you're looking for that matrix kind of look, you want to sort of push things towards the blue and the green. Not too tough to do. So anyway, so you got color correction, you got the ability to cut and move your clips around, close gaps, so you've got ripple editing, you've got the ability to combine clips into a group. That covers 90% of what you're ever going to bump into in editing, actually. Obviously it can handle audio tracks, and frankly Blender is probably more forgiving of video formats than Vegas is, actually, in terms of all different flavors of MP4 being able to just be used seamlessly. So I've said it before, but I've never really demonstrated it, and this is definitely a short demonstration. We're going to keep it under 10 minutes here. But clearly, if you want an entry-level video editor that's more than what you can really do with, say, Shotcut, and it's probably, depending on how you look at it, it's either better or worse than something that's more advanced like Hit Film Express. And I say that because one of the things you got to remember too with Blender is that you also have complete node-based compositing baked into the program as well. There's just a few caveats to that, because if you're going to do a composited, a complex green screen shot or something, typically you want to render it out to an image sequence and then bring it into the video editor. You actually can bring a Blender, like a 3D scene, into the video editor, or at least last time I checked you could. But the catch is, every time you advance one frame, it's got to like re-render it, right? And figure out, because what if you change something in the scene? So generally mixing your, let's say your construction operations, like your grease pencil work or your 3D, mixing that too close with your video edit is probably bad policy. You can edit the video colors in Shotcut. Okay, I don't really use Shotcut. I forget the name of the one I use. It's just like Shotcut. I mean, it's a free. I may have actually deleted it because I never use it anymore. But it's in portable apps. It's one of those portable apps. So anyway, I mean, long story short is, I certainly, if I wasn't using Vegas, I'd be using Blender. Let's just put it that way for video editing. In fact, even if you think about it this way, let me think about the application here. In the same way that you can use, like in Krita, you might put a bunch of layers into a group so that you can apply a transform mask and move them all as a single unit, right? That's how you do like a camera pan on your whole scene. Okay, let's put a pin in that. Well, this is really kind of the same concept here. You have the ability to color correct these clips individually, and then you can make them into a meta strip and then add modifiers to that, which is effectively affecting the whole collection as a group. And you can go as many layers deep on that as you want to. So if you think about it that way, if you think about it in terms the way we animators do, in terms of layers and groupings and what's the parent of what, this is a pretty nice recursive, let's just say capability in terms of what you can do with your visuals to sort of get it all into a unified show. And as far as I can tell, for the most part, full frame rate playback doesn't seem to be much of an issue. Doesn't seem to be having any trouble. So I'm assuming you can do the same thing here again. Grab this, make this into a meta, and then add a color balance to this. We'll just push everything to the red to make it obnoxious. Yeah, and as you can see, it just continues to do that. Now, what I don't know is, what if I unpack the meta? Then what happens to the modifiers? Do they just get deleted, or do they get applied to the individual strips? Let's find out. So let's, this is interesting. Toggle meta. That's interesting. So I assume if I toggle the meta that I'm sort of locked into, like I'm locked into working with this meta right now. What if I do this again? Okay, now that's interesting. Wow, that's actually super cool. Okay, so what it's doing, it's like a subscene in OpenTunes is the way it works. So I'm actually in the meta right now, and I guess maybe I have to grab all of these to get back up out of it. Toggle meta is now, so I may have confused it because I went into one meta and then I went into the meta that was inside the other one. Okay. So I'm inside that one, and what if I, there we go. By grabbing the other one, that did unmeta. And so I find that interesting. It's like a nesting kind of thing. That's quite useful. So that means you can make modifications to a meta strip without necessarily having to explode it, as we would say in OpenTunes or Tahoma terms. And then if you really want to, of course, you can unmeta the strip, which just unpacks everything. And I would assume that any corrections, it appears to me that any corrections that were applied to the meta are just discarded. They're just gone forever, kind of thing. So got to be a little careful. That's probably why you would rather go into the meta by using what was it, Control G? Yeah. So you really would rather toggle meta to make changes than to explode it, because if you explode it, you're throwing any modifiers away. Okay. So let me see if I guess if I grab that and toggle meta goes back to there. Okay, interesting. Kind of a cool way to work, I would say. Definitely a good way to deal with things like color correction, where you want to deal with certain things individually, but then you also want to deal with entire groups of things. There really is not a great way to do that in Vegas, except you can kind of do it one level deep in this. Okay, you can have nested. Obviously, I use nested scenes in Vegas, but basically, if you want to talk about color matching and stuff, what you really have to do is either apply it to the whole track or to the individual clip. And if you need more nuance than that, then you need to start grabbing collections of clips and moving them to separate tracks so that you can apply like color correctors or whatever to that track that are different. And I do that I've done that in my film work all the time, and so you wind up with scenes that have quite a few tracks. I like this meta concept better, generally, because it allows things to not become unwieldy where you've got, 25 tracks going on. So, but that's just my opinion, and everybody's taste is different. But probably the bigger, in terms of things like special effects or color correction, where Blender really beats Vegas, I'll show you, would be if I apply a color balance to this guy here. And I may not remember the hotkey, but last time I checked, with Blender, you have the ability to sample the color in the image. There really is no way to do that in Vegas, to actually sample the exact color to see. Well, I guess there it is. You just click on it. So just clicking on it shows you everything about the color. That's enormously valuable information. In fact, if you look at my 10-year-old video here on YouTube called Green Screen Nightmare, it really gets into the gritty details of color sampling and how you use that to pull a green screen mask that throws away as little good data as possible. It's quite an interesting thing, and it's got, like, I don't know, 10 or 20,000 views. It's been a very popular video over the years. So anyway, that's it for editing in Blender. I would just say to anybody that's looking for a video editing solution that's both free and powerful, Blender is pretty much it in my book. So that's that. That's enough for Blender for the moment. All right, so now let's go back to Vegas and get to work. All right, I'm not going to jump into audio this morning, although I definitely am going to be getting to the audio on webisode 7 pretty soon. Definitely pretty soon, but I'm kind of in the zone with the animation here, so I'm going to keep rocking forward. Okay, it looks like we've got this shot where Mel is yes, Mel is peeking, and we really want that to just break things up. You know, we were over here with Mel, and then we've got these shots that we're reusing that we need to put voiceover on top of, or lip sync, I should say. And then this is the shot I just did last night. Took about 3 hours. So we're on track. A 9-second shot in 3 hours is right where we want to be. And if you think about, if you're being anal about the time component, like I tend to be, it bears mentioning that in addition to getting this shot done in 2.5 to 3 hours, in addition, we gained another 5 seconds or so of show time by, let us just say, cleverly reusing shots from before. And so the aggregate result here would be about, so this would be, I mean, quite literally yesterday, 5 seconds, 9 seconds, yep, so it's 14 total, plus 3 more. So 18 seconds yesterday of show that can justifiably said was really done from beginning to end, although some of it I cheated. I cheated by reusing stuff. Dave, by the way, I got the mic stuff. Yes, okay, I saw your comments at the end of the day yesterday, and sorry I didn't respond. I was like shutting everything down, and as I'm hitting the off button, it's like you close the window just as you notice that comment. So anyway, I figured I'd catch it tomorrow. Gonna start learning how to use it this week. Okay, so you need a AA battery in the microphone, and that's really it. We're not gonna worry about the mini USB thing at this point. You can deal with your Android device later. But what should happen, Maria, is very simple. Okay, put a battery in the microphone, plug in the microphone end of the connector, and plug the other end into a USB port in your microphone. That's it. There is nothing more to do. Then when you go into Audacity or Reaper, just choose your audio source, and the microphone should show up as an audio source. To be specific, let me see if I have, let me look and see if I have Audacity on my machine, just so I can sort of keep it fair. Okay, so here we have Audacity Portable. So yeah, what should happen is right here on your microphone, it's just going to let you choose. So in my case, I can pick between the sound mapper, high definition audio, which would be the jack, the 1/8-inch jack that's plugged into the computer into the cheapo sound card, or I can choose USB audio device, which is going to be the microphone on my webcam, or I can choose USB 2 mic, which is what I'm talking through right now. So if I choose this, my suspicion is check, check, check. There you go. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I assume that on your laptop or your computer, your all-in-one, it'll show up probably as USB 2.0 mic. That's it. There's nothing more to do. Just plug the stuff in and get to work. And by the way, on your microphone, I will say this. Let me go ahead and I'm not an Audacity guy, so I don't know the hotkeys and everything here, but I would say on your microphone, let's just pull this up here so you can see. Don't do this. Don't be 2 inches. This is a shotgun mic. What you want to do is be in a fairly quiet room if you can. Okay, a room with soft surfaces. Like I'm in my living room. This room could be an okay recording studio because it's got a little bit of liveness from the ceiling and a couple of hard walls, but there's also lots of, there's Zuko's cage, there's the sofa, there's a lot of soft surfaces. So basically, acoustically, it's a pretty good space. But for doing voiceovers, all you really want to do is be a natural distance away from the mic. So here's the mic. I'm gonna say I'm about 8 inches. Okay, so now I'm the voice of Golek, and I'm 8 inches away from the microphone, and this seems to be a little hot, actually. This is going to probably distort like crazy. Ooh, that's bad. Okay, so why that input level is so hot, I'm not sure. Let me see. Where do we set the actual... Aha, right over here, I bet. Yep. Let's turn this down to a modest level and see if that changes anything. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. There we go. Now we're getting into a level that looks pretty good. You don't want to have your levels kissing the ceiling or the floor here, but you do want to be able to see a decent waveform. That tells you you're getting pretty good clean audio. While we're here, I'll show you how to do noise reduction just in case you need it. Okay, so let's stop that. Have your levels kissing the ceiling. Okay, this is wrong, by the way. Sorry about that. This is the wrong microphone. You can tell by the sound of it. Listen to this. You don't want to have your levels kissing the ceiling or the floor here, but you... Okay, that is not this microphone. That is the microphone on the webcam, and it sounds horrible. So let's just get rid of that, and let's switch to, it'd be this one, I believe. Now, whether I can record with Audacity while passing through to live streaming, I'm not sure. Let's find out. Check, 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 check. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good level. And let me just push this up a little bit. Check, 1, 2. So I'm about 6 inches away from my mic, and now I'm kind of the voice of Melchizedek. And now I'm the voice of Asher. Okay. Stop that. All right, so let's listen to this one. Check, 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 check. Listen to how clean this is. Check, 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 check. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good level. And it's perfect. I mean, it's completely perfect. Now, one thing, let me test it. Well, actually, I can't test it. I was going to say, you can experiment with this yourself. But the microphone that you bought, if you push the slider on the microphone to turn it on all the way forward, then you'll get that slightly boxy shotgun sound, which is what we hear. And sounds pretty normal to me because I'm so used to hearing it, but basically it is not the full-bodied sound of a typical podcasting microphone. What should happen is if you take your microphone and switch it to the center position, you will no longer have that really narrow supercardioid pattern. Okay, it looks like my live stream is frozen. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, we're back. Are we back? Yes, we're back. Okay. When you switch the microphone to the center position, why is my live stream acting flaky? My live stream keeps freezing. Are you guys seeing that? Are you guys seeing it freeze repeatedly? It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Hello? Okay, so this is... Okay, you're not seeing it freeze, so maybe that's just on my end. Okay, so to finish my sentence, when you put it in the middle position, what will happen is your output level will drop quite a bit. It'll drop basically to about what you would be getting out of a typical dynamic microphone that doesn't have a battery. In exchange for that, it should have the full-bodied sound of a normal podcasting microphone. So and I can't test it with the mic I'm talking into right now because this one is defective, and the center position, the level changes, but the audio quality or the tone doesn't. So, but what should happen, and it does with my other one that I have, is your middle position is lower level, perfect sound, and your full-on position is hotter level, boxy sound. For voiceovers for a cartoon, we want the boxy sound. We want the hot level boxy sound. Okay, I had said something about noise reduction. If your computer has a little bit noisier situation, what you can do is select an area of your waveform like this, and then you go to... It's the same way we do it in Reaper. It's actually the same process. We go to, and by the way, if I don't use Audacity, so if I can't find it here and have to bail on showing this, that's just what I'm going to do so I can get back to work. But and by the way, this right here, pulse stretch, is amazing. Let me show that. And then here's the noise reduction is right here. So that I just got the noise profile. Okay, so that's all it took. And now if I select the whole waveform and then use the effect again, it already has the noise profile that it already took from the area of silence. And then if we just go ahead and do the noise reduction, we see a tiny, tiny change in the audio. But now, and you won't hear it much with this microphone because it's really quiet anyway. You know, this device, Maria, that you just bought, by my standards, is a really good mic preamp. It's very good quality. Quiet as a mouse. Hang on, I'm tweaking something over here on my computer. My Velcro came unstuck. So anyway, what you'll hear now. Let me just push this up a little bit. So you can hear the difference actually. It's dropping to dead silent here. Push this up a little bit. Check one. Just dead silent. So the noise reduction in Audacity is very good. The pulse stretch thing, for you guys that don't want to get into Reaper for whatever reason, this would be something to consider. Pulse stretch. See, what's really useful actually, speaking of Reaper, is using pulse stretch to stretch something really long so that you can then squeeze it shorter again to a sort of a middle ground between the two, and that will generally sound better than if you were to simply stretch it longer in the first place, because you always get more distortion or artifacting and whatnot when you make something longer than when you make it shorter. I won't get into why, but it's pretty simple actually. Okay, so to answer your question, Maria, yes. The velvet thingy, this is effectively a windscreen. Okay, so let's just switch to the big screen here. So, and I know I'm a little out of focus. We're not going to worry about that. Okay, so what this is it's a very mediocre windscreen. That's what it is. So without this, and you know, basically, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Okay, so you can probably hear a bunch of popping. I don't know that you can, but I'm assuming you can. When you put this on, you're still going to hear pops. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Okay? It's not as bad, and if you're more than 2 to 4 inches away from the microphone with the windscreen on, generally you're not going to get pops, especially if you talk past the mic. Important. Don't talk into the mic. Don't do this. Don't do it. You can get away with it, but why? All you're doing is sending the air straight into the diaphragm of the microphone and inviting pops. You're just saying, oh, pops, come and get me. That's stupid. Turn the microphone a little to the side and speak past it. In your case, about 4 inches away, speaking past it, you can look at your software and you'll see if you're getting good levels, like I showed you a little bit ago. So you're trying to get levels that give you a good view of the waveform without them actually hitting, as I said, the ceiling or the floor. If you do that, you know, there's a range of good. This is all fine. A little bit hotter is probably better, but at the end of the day, as long as you got something kind of sort of like what we're seeing here, you're going to be fine. Because I would certainly be able to do a little bit of noise reduction or pump up the level a little bit. It's just not a big deal. Okay? So that gives you what you need to be able to now get busy making all kinds of money doing professional voiceovers. And when you see your way clear to give me a redo on those clips, I appreciate it, because it just means that the overall quality of the show is going to be more consistent. And my advice to you is just look at the webisodes and do it the way I've described the correct way that Hollywood doesn't do looping, which is to just listen to your lines and immediately echo them back. So you have your headphones on, you watch your episode of Salt and Light, and when you hear a line from either Carliana or the villager or Fala, whenever you hear a line, you immediately, right now, without any hesitation, immediately repeat what you just heard, and you'll find that you'll nail it. 9 times out of 10, you'll nail it on the first try, and you'll have a good take. If you wait even 1 second, you will have a tendency to start injecting mental processing into the performance, and it might be a good performance, but it will not be a match. If you want it to be a match, immediately after you hear a line, repeat it. Immediately. When you hear it. Here's what the line is. Here's what the line is. That's the way it should sound. If you do that, you'll be able to nail your looping, no problem. So now we've learned about Blender for video editing. We've learned about Audacity, and which, by the way, just for the record, guys, Audacity is an enormously powerful program, a very good program, a very mature program, very stable program. The only other thing I was going to show is Paul Stretch, just because it's so darn good. So let's listen to what this says. Push this up a little bit. Okay, push this up a little bit. Push this up a little bit. That's what I said. And Paul Stretch says stretch factor 10%. Let's go to like 30%. And I'll go with the default time resolution. Let's preview it. Wow. Okay, I don't know what just happened there. Manage. Let me see what happens here. Oh, I got the factor way wrong. Oh, that was stupid. Okay, so let's do Control Z. Let's start over. Check, check, check. This is an audio test. Check, check, check. This is an audio test. And by the way, I could hear Zuko in the background. Zuko, what are you talking about over there, buddy? You're just chattering away, aren't you? Okay. So I'm going to just delete that. Check, check, check. All right, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and clean this all up. I wonder if the rest of my clip is still there. See, like, yeah, it is. See, I don't know the hotkeys. Like, I'm hitting my middle mouse button to try to just navigate, and it appears that doesn't work in Audacity. So I'm going to select this and try that again, because I am curious how to do it. Check, check, check. This is an audio test. Okay, so let's go to Paul Stretch. And the stretch factor of 30 was ridiculous. I'm going to go, let's just do 2. I want to see what that does. Check, check, check. This is an audio test. Okay, I wonder why we're hearing that much reverb in it. Check, check, check. It doesn't seem like it should generate that much reverberation. But I'm going to try this again. So I guess now that I understand it, probably about 1.5 should be pretty impressive Time resolution, let's go to 0.1 so we get a little more granularity.
Check, check, check. This is an audio test.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep that and see if it sounds that way here too.
Check, check, check. This is an audio test.
Okay, so I can't speak to why. I mean, that is not impressive to me, actually, because I'm hearing all this reverberation introduced into it that really didn't seem to be there in the original source material. So clearly there's something.
And now I'm the voice of Asher.
There's something I don't understand. So we'll leave it at that. So this is important for working on cartoons, just because making having economical ways to make your voiceovers fit is kind of good policy, right? So I am going to go here and let's just check this. Check. Okay, so check. Test 1, 2, 3. So check. Okay, so now the same thing in Reaper 1.5. So check. Test 1, 2, 3. That's interesting. I'm hearing the reverb here too. Oh, that's because of the effects here. How stupid of me. Let's turn the effects off. So check. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, so see what check. See how you're getting that little bit of artifacting? You can hear it. So check. It's kind of like a clip at the end of each word kind of thing. Whereas when you stretch stuff shorter, it just has to take samples out. So check. Test 1, 2, 3. So check. Test 1, 2. So all those advertisements you hear where they have the disclaimer at the end, this is how they do it. Check. Test 1, 2, 3. So check. Okay. Which by the way, interestingly enough, for if I was doing a voiceover, if I wasn't the accomplished professional that I am, I might consider doing voiceovers a little slower. Like, I might consider speaking just a little slower than I think, just to give myself the latitude to do this. Like, I might consider speaking just a little slower than I think. See, that could even be sped up more. Like, I might consider speaking just a little slower than I think. See what I mean? So you get very little artifacting when you shorten it. And you get lots of artifacting the more you expand it. So that's just basically the rule there. So, okay, enough audio. Let's get back to our work. Morning, Val. I didn't hear her say good morning, but you know what? My ears aren't what they used to be. So, unfortunately, enough with Audacity. Let's look at what we got here. Let's get to work. It is 9:37, and we've got this shot of Melchizedek. I'm going to cut that sucker to the clipboard right now, and we're just going to get this going. This is a static shot that we're going to be able to get some reuse out of shortly. So let's jump back over here to Krita. Control V. I said Control V. Okay, that's interesting. File, new. Wait. Oh, that makes sense. Sorry. The resolution is half resolution on the. So I'm gonna hit Shift here so that it expands in a uniform fashion, and we're gonna put this on the bottom, because it's just going to be a guide, and then I'm going to hit Alt-M, which for me is a hotkey to color to alpha, and then Control-M so I can ramp up the alpha on the high end in order to darken this shot. And frankly, you know what? I'm just going to put an eye blink in here anyway, so we're going to actually turn the storyboard image into our shot. Yep. That's what we're going to do. So how are we going to do that? Well, we could do it with a simple cleanup operation. Let's give it a try. It can't hurt. It's going to take just a moment to do. So I'm going to take the alpha. I don't know. Let me see here. Yeah, that's definitely risky behavior. I would say not worth it. Not worth it. So what I'm going to do here is just pump the low end red like that and turn it into a red line. Okay. And now we'll hit the X key, which should take us back to that. B key, so we're using a brush. And let's turn on the smoothing. So that'd be the Q key for me, and then tab into full screen mode. I want a little more arc. That sucked. I meant to hit the Z key right there. Okay, that's interesting. Apparently, flipping the canvas is affected. I mean, undo takes that into account. So it actually undoes the flips. Okay, obviously we're looking way down on Melchizedek, so okay, pull out here, see what we got. This left eye pupil is whacked. G, E, get rid of that. B, E, which means brush without erase mode. All right, so I'm making a little bit of correction there on. I think we can maybe put some indication. Of his hair. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get a couple wrinkles in there. This is going to kind of loop around about there. Little wrinklage there, and then wonk. All right, let's flip this so I can see what I'm doing since I'm a righty. Boom. Okay. Got to get his hand, or his arm, I should say, in there. We'll just wrap that around like that. And now we're going to get Alt-M and get rid of the red. Okay, and then Control-M just to clamp the alpha to make sure we got rid of any stray pixels. And now I'm going to turn off my smoothing. Go back to my pencil brush. With my smoothing turned off. Is it off? Yes, it is. So, and now I'm just going to put in a little bit more, delicate ink work there on the eyes. Okay, N key, and then we're just going to basically give him a blink or two. So let's go back out of edit mode and save our work. This is going to be shot number 628. So this is going to be -628.ping. There it is. And I'm going to specify, actually let me check this. So what this says here is 628-ping, but it's save as type CRA. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Okay, it says it's going to save it as a ping. Okay, good. All right, that's what I wanted. So it's going to save it as a ping, but it's also going to save the additional CRA file. Okay, so now we're in good stead, friends. All right, so let's do the background here really fast. Let's hit the G key. Okay, and then I'm just going to actually blur this a little bit. Gaussian blur. Okay, let's grab this, something like that. Okay, and then we don't want to have too much of a range of too much dynamic range in the color. Definitely not. Zuko, he's like, okay, okay. I have no idea when I said that or where he got that from, but he's definitely doing a lot of yakking over there. Zuko, we like it when you chatter in English. We don't prefer it when you chirp. We just like it when you speak to us in English. So make a mental note of that and carry on accordingly. My little avian friend. He says, okay. Zuko, you are funny. Okay, that I didn't like. This is too desaturated. Boom. Let's go a little darker, but also a little more to the right so that we build a little saturation into this. Okay, and actually, I'm going to do that so we can then actually just kind of chomp over top of it and, in other words, selectively have areas of sharpness versus smooth. So if you've never seen this technique, I wouldn't be surprised because I just invented it 5 minutes ago. I have never seen anyone else do quite what I'm trying to do here. That I definitely do not like. So again, oh, by the way, if you guys don't know this, I was looking for where I can watch Ken Burns Jazz because I haven't watched it in a while, and I always did like that show, that series, I should say. And turns out you can watch it on Hoopla. So Hoopla is through your public library. At least here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with the Allen County Public Library, you automatically get a Hoopla account or membership, whatever you want to call it, with your library card. And the most of Ken Burns' work is available on Hoopla, which means you just log into Hoopla, and it's just hoopladigital.com. And initially, you probably have to validate it with your library card or something. But then there's a ton of, books, audiobooks, ebooks, videos, movies. It's pretty expansive, actually. So there you go, for those who are interested. So now what I'm going to do is try to punch up the grass. So everything's about contrast, right? So if I'm a little bit lighter and then I go over top of the stuff that's a little bit darker, then it just works, right? Zuko, you are definitely being a chatterbox today. Okay, so now the other thing we want to do on the background, I want to do it in a separate layer, is just go ahead and give a shadow. Okay, so there's that, and I would say probably we want to blur the shadow as well. Although actually, let's remedy that. I think that's too much of a blur. So let's just do a 5 pixel. Whoops. Undo. Control F. I know what he's saying. He's saying, oh dear. All right, now let me see what happens if we switch that to overlay mode. Interesting. I like overlay mode a little better in this case. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and liquefy it to make a little bit more sense. I'm going to stretch that a little bit and kind of just follow these contours a little better of the tent. So... and then technically, yeah, there'd probably be some shadow down here as well that we might see. So we'll leave it at that. Okay? Now let's get back to Melchizedek. We'll solo his layer. In this case, I'm going to say we pretty much could just keep it all in one layer, frankly. So I'm going to just copy this shot from yesterday to the clipboard to serve as a color model. And we'll just turn the background off for now. Okay, so now I'm going to put Melchizedek up there in the corner, and then I'm going to hit GE so I can just get rid of everything that doesn't actually help us. Okay, and now we're going to use the fill tool, F key, in behind mode. Up, that's not the right layer there, Jack. There we go. Okay. Okay, so yeah, the danger of... Actually, this is a great illustration of the danger of using behind mode. If you use behind mode in the same layer, it's quite useful unless you have a mistake, and then you have to go back and fix it later. Because if I go like this, then I'm going to have to manually paint in the white right up to the edges of the ink lines without accidentally painting over them. So you're just really asking for trouble. So from that standpoint, it really does make more sense just to put it on a separate layer, because then this will be easy to fix by comparison. Oh, we got a leak. Where the heck? Ah, there you are, you dastardly leak. All right, and we'll give that a little purple, little flesh tone there, little flesh tone there, little flesh tone there. There's the color of our garment, and boom, we've got another leak. Fixed. F key, boom. There it is. And actually, was that the wrong color? Nope, looks like that was the correct color. Okay. All right, and we'll even zoom in here and steal the whites of his eyes just for complete accuracy. And then I'm going to hit the G key and then manually paint in this one. But by gum, you don't want to be in behind mode for that, do you? No, sir, you do not. All right, and then let's turn on the black. Let's just go to a brush. Let's not bother trying to use the freehand path tool. It's too annoying. Okay, so this is ink. This is color. This is our background, and obviously some shadows would be very badly in order. So let's call that SHD. And hit the G key. And we're actually going to bleed that right down over top of his face. That looks pretty good. So we're going to be fairly aggressive with the shadows on this shot. And we are going to have, by the way, 2 layers of shadow. So we're going to have an overall shadow to just punch up the well, you'll see. Let's put those guys in a group so that they act as a compositing group. That means everything gets composited within the group, and then whatever comes out of that is what's composited over the rest of the stack, which is why, by the way, a group can have a blending mode, because you might want to apply a certain blending mode to the entire group. Usually it's going to be normal. Okay, that looks good. So now let's do shadow number 2. And by the way, the shadow should be alpha locked, although in this case it's probably not strictly necessary. But what we want to do here is kind of a little different. I'm going to kind of back, well, you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to hit Control F and start blurring that. And then what I'm going to do is just start dialing it in like that. Dial it in. Okay, one more thing I think I can see that would be nice for this particular shot is some highlights on his hair. So we'll just kind of judiciously sort of delineate his little hair poofies. And honestly, I actually don't like the way that looks. Can it work a little more subtly, perhaps? Let's find out. Yeah, that's probably okay. All right. Okay, so now what I want to do is basically ink should be Control Insert and color Control Insert. So this should be 8 frames per second, by the way. And let's, did that? Yeah, that was stupid. Boom, boom. Okay. Bom, bom. Okay, frame 8 is where we're going to put the eye blink. So let's zip in here. G, E, Control Insert, copying the That's interesting. Well, all right, let's just keep going here and see what happens. Yeah, looks good. I know I started I started a sentence a moment ago that I didn't finish. I literally have no idea what I was going to say, so forget it. Forget it, people. It probably wasn't very important, and this stupid thing needs to be in raw mode, not curve mode. B key. Okay, and then these two keys, obviously, control drag. Yep. And we don't really want to limit that to a loop, so I'm going to say back to the beginning, blink, boom. Okay, 18 frames. That's it. Let's do 18. 1, 8. And render this. This is going to be 628. Okay, and by the way, let's just say, if you wanted to have a little bit of fun with this, let me show you how you could have some fun with this shot, actually. A lot of fun, as a matter of fact. I'm going to go ahead and put animation keyframes in everywhere. And then what I'm going to do is hit Shift Alt and drag these to the left. So basically the shot starts and how in the world, how Krita decides, it baffles me how Krita decides which frames to, or which layers to auto pin to the timeline and which ones it doesn't. It seems really strange to me how it decides that. It seems like the first one that's created when you create the Krita file does not get pinned and everything else does. I think that's what's happening. But anyway, so we go like this, and now let's take blink, hello, blink. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 2-frame tween, maybe 3. I'm going to go to the Mel group, hit the A key, and I'm going to do a major league liquefy here. Why is the background being modified? Okay, that's a little strange. The background is not in the group. That's a little strange. Well, it's easy to fix. We just go to the background layer. Yeah, that's strange. Why is it modifying the background? Oh, it's not. I think what it's doing is it's introducing some white, probably from the background. Yes, because the ink was originally the storyboard. So GE, I'll bet you this fixes it. Yep. So okay, there we go. Sorry about that, people. All right, so let's go here, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Watch this. Oops, we want to do this on the group. Liquefy. Okay, we want a major liquefy. Okay, and I'm going to actually just manually compensate for that little bit of a problem. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take the cast shadow and modify it as well. So cast shadow, we'll put in a hotkey, or I should say a keyframe, and then here, it doesn't really matter what we do, but theoretically if the shadow, if he moved closer to the tent, then the shadow would move closer to him, right? Obviously. So that's what we're trying to do here. I love it. I love it. Excellent. Let's go with it. Okay, so Control R, this is shot number 628. So let's change this to an 8. Delete 8. These are pings. It's going into the scenes 628 render folder. And then we'll cut it into the show and see what we think. Right? So we cut here. Come back to 628. slide it this way. As you can see, the ping with some distortion got updated. Project media, whoops. 628. Hello, 628. Where are you? There you are. Render. Open the sequence. 18 frames. At 8 frames per second. 628 is right there. We smack it in there. Delete the storyboard image. Close this up. Clean the media pool. And now we should have flowing from yesterday's shot right here. And by the way, I want to make a little mod on this one. This actually would be quite interesting if this shot was like this. We're still okay because we're putting her on the rule of thirds, okay? She's on the rule of thirds and his edge is on the rule of thirds. Okay, so let's do that. Now let's get through her dialogue, and then we're going to smash zoom back to restore. This will make this shot work better, I'm quite sure. What? Outrageous. What's going on here? See, that's way better. That's very anime. That's a very anime type of look. I like it. Yep. Oh man, that's great. And then this is the shot we just did. Oh, we got to take out the resampling. How we doing? 1 hour. Okay, we got one shot done. Only 2 seconds though, but that's the bad news. The good news is that it gets reused here. So this is 628. All right, so this is going to be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. And this is going to be called 633. So let's go back here and file, save as 633.ping. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do, okay, we're going to run it in reverse. So what I'm going to do is actually grab all the keyframes and mirror them. And then, of course, we got this blank area here. So I'm going to do remove frames and pull. Okay, so some things aren't quite working. The eye blink's okay. Looks like the shadow's moving at the wrong time. And frankly, let me just look at the cast shadow. So it's actually the regular shadow, and that's probably happening because apparently there is no animated keyframe in there. So I'm going to hit the A key and actually make a slight mod to that. So I'm just going to liquefy it a little bit. Like so. Let's play it. Okay, so now the shadow, the cast shadow still jumps late. Okay, this is much harder for me than for normal people because the dyslexia thing is making it enormously hard for me to puzzle out what's happening before what else is happening. It's like a lot harder than it should be. And by the way, I haven't been looking at the chat. So hi Tom, hi Darren. Darren's not here; he's working. So anyway, so the best way for me to deal with it is to, number one, suss out what layer I'm on, which for me I think will be the group. Okay, so it appears to me that when he moves forward, this shadow does not move. No, it does move though. it's the secondary shadow is the problem. That's the problem. So sorry about that. Yes, right here. This needs to it just needs to move a little bit. As long as it moves, as long as there's something, then your brain will accept it as a legit movement. But now this move is not going to help. So we'll get rid of those. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to do a couple of fixes. I'm going to, do I need to turn these up? I'm not sure. Let me say, this is a good example where baking down the ink and paint would really kind of help a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a group. So I'm going to make a subgroup of the ink and paint, and then I'm going to duplicate the subgroup and turn the original off, and then merge this. So now our ink and paint are all in one layer. And the reason I did that is so I can start selecting pieces of it and chomping it into other layers. Okay, because the first thing I want to do is I want to have the ability to do a little bit of articulation with his eyebrows. So therefore, what I'm going to do, so we'll just call this ink and paint, and then I'm going to select, and I want to do this fairly carefully actually. What we're concerned about is the lower edge of this, because once we move it, that's what's going to inadvertently overlap the eye in a way that we don't want it to if we're not careful. So this may not make sense at the moment. I'm hitting shift. This is where animation in Krita becomes kind of easy and fun if you just think about creatively about what you're trying to do. So what I'm going to do is go Control X, Control V. So now his eyebrows are in a separate layer. Well, that means that this layer is now damaged. Let's solo it and you can see the problem, right? So now let's just take the G key and we'll lasso this. And as you can see, it actually has a bunch of artifacts. So let's just get rid of those artifacts. And now we've just given ourselves the ability to animate his eyebrows independently, right? Okay, so here's the eyebrows. And the thing about it is, this is not like taking a, it's not like taking a rigged-based approach. In other words, if I were to create the character at the beginning of the shot, doing it this way, saying, wow, we want to have his eyebrows and we want to have his head and we have everything in different layers and so we can make a puppet. Nothing wrong with that, okay? However, what I find is you wind up doing a ton of preliminary work that either winds up being a siren song that seductively leads you into doing animation that's really not as good if you just kept it loose and drew the damn thing. And it also oftentimes just the labor doesn't pay for itself. So this methodology is better because when you bump into the situation where it becomes, okay, it'd be useful if I could just animate his eyebrows without having to completely redraw and re-ink everything, here you go. Combine them, go ahead and bake it down, and now you can do the job. So here what we have is we're going to actually hit the A key and go into liquify mode with a big brush and just do 2 keys. And I mean, look how stupidly easy that was. Okay, now the move obviously makes it not work, but we'll get to that. See that? Okay, so here, what this tells me is I'm going to just get rid of all this. There's no reason for it, actually. It's just overkill. So I don't want a loop region, so let me just go like that. Okay, I'm bumping into mistakes here. The only reason I can see that mistake happening is because of what I call stupid stuff, which is that it appears to me that there is some layer that Krita decided not to pin to the timeline, so there's stuff animating, and I made the mistake specifically because I didn't see the data I needed to see in order to see the mistake coming. So now what I'm going to do is go through these layers. There it is. No, it's not the eyebrow layer, duh. Ink and paint. Ah, why the flaming blank, 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 beep. Why in the heck? Because look what Krita just did. It actually, the eyebrows aren't pinned either. So Krita's just, I swear to God, it's like willy-nilly decides some things you're just not going to be able to see and some things you are on the timeline. It's just nuts. I don't know, man. I wish I understood what their algorithm is for how they decide whether to make it automatic. Like if you knew that everything never pins to the timeline unless you manually go in and click the little thing yourself, that would be fine. At least then you know where you stand. It's like, okay, it's up to me. Just saying, people. Just saying. Okay, so anyway, let's go. Boom. Okay, this happens too slowly, I would say. So let me just make this. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go ahead and add back an eye blink here. So, boom, bap. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make two little mods here. G key. First, let's get rid of this. So we have the eye blink, but then we're going to make his eyes slightly different when they reopen. We're going to put that little sort of squint thing in there. Have the little squint thing going on. So here's the B key, boom. And let's copy this keyframe over to here. And then I sampled the color and it didn't take. Ah, that's annoying. Ah! I guess I'm back to blankety blankety beep 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 blank beep beep blank. Sorry, friends, for my virtual vulgarity. Oh, that's a little too much of a good thing there, Dave. And I am going to actually give him just a little bit more iris here. Okay, let's see how it feels. Okay, cool. Now here in Ink and Paint, when he opens his eyes, let's just get rid of his mouth. And now let's give him a mouth layer. B key, actually no, G key. Mouth. Okay, mouth is pinned to the timeline. Why? I have no idea. I'm glad it is, but so let's put in a keyframe. Okay, this is not going to be long enough, so let's go to, say, 24. Okay, we'll crank that down a little bit. Asher. Okay, that did not work. This, I'm going to slide that over there. Push this one back. Asher. Huh. Just playing with something here. Okay, where is the bump coming from? Oh, I see, right at the beginning. He bumps out. Asher. I like that. Let's end it there. Control R. This is shot 633. Backspace 3.3. Backspace 3.3. Render that. Let's cut it into the show, see what we've got. Boom. Okay, 633, there it is. So we're definitely getting the reuse out of our shots today. Scenes, 633. Hello, 633, where are you? Boom, boom, boom. open the sequence. Sequence plays at 8 frames per second. There it is. And we want to turn off resampling. And then here, it cuts back to Golic. So what actually happens is, these guys are like, what the heck's going on, Golic? And then we just get some context, okay, to remind us that Mel is listening from the other side of the tent. That's what that's for. And Golic says it's Asher. Asher? So this might be a case for reuse of this shot, where we could probably reuse this shot basically take Vespigi and shrink him down a little bit and give him a little bit of a body. So bring these two more into the same size, and then let's run this in reverse and see what this does. Asher. Or even this part. Asher. We could have his head come up instead of down. I guess I didn't really move his head in that shot, but this is definitely going to be the basis for this shot that's missing. So anyway, so he's listening in. Here, see for yourself. This was, well, what he says was, this is the work of Asher. Asher? Who's Asher? Asher? I love it. The tension is rising. I can hear the soundtrack in my head building the tension here as Mel now realizes that Asher's being implicated in this conspiracy, which, by the way, it was Asher. Asher is the one who wrote the letter. Okay? So make no mistake about it. Electrocola. Hey, Electrocola, you're new here. Welcome to the live stream. And by the way, hi, Blifton. Good to see you. Hey, Amar. Where are we at here? So we don't actually have that long. Basically, what's going to happen is Golic's going to go back and do damage control at the wedding ceremony, and essentially, in front of the whole community, put Vespar on the spot to commit publicly to getting revenge on whoever carried out this offense against the whole community, the whole kingdom, which, by the way, per Golic's manipulations, is the reason why the rain stopped again, right? So he's turning it into this religious thing. And so now Vespar's mission is to go forward, this dramatic moment where it pushes in on Vespar, and he rises to the moment, right? So he's going to find whoever took his bride to be. And then we immediately cut to Asher, and the first thing Asher says is, "Did anyone see you?" And Mel's like, I don't know. And so that's when Asher sends Mel on this. I mean, basically, Mel's got to leave. Mel's got to actually get out of town. And so it's quite dramatic. And then, of course, we've got Melchizedek now on the run. And we've got the whole setup that leads us to the end of the pilot where Mel and Luka and Tianara are all in league together. Got it? Wow. That's a lot of crap going on, isn't it? Well, you can do a lot in 48 minutes. Okay, so there's that shot. We will save our work. And now I would say let's go back to to this shot and let's repurpose it into what we need. So the first thing I want to do as I'm looking at this is, do we want to bake these guys down? Let me think about that. Maybe we do. I'm thinking we probably want to bake down the ink and paint. It just makes it easier to deal with the keyframes. But for a moment, let's assume not. So if that's the case, let's take Vespigi and add a transform mask to him. And then just hit the A key. I'm kind of breaking my own rule by not putting a full frame color layer in here. So what I want to do now is just see if there's any artifacting as a result. And of course, it didn't play actually all the way through. So, I mean, you lose the top of his head, but that's no big deal. Now, you could argue that from the standpoint of the transform mask, it actually might make more sense to do that anyway. So then we're going to want to reverse the keyframes. So what I'm going to do is, what time is it? 10:19? I guess I'm going to keep rocking here. I was thinking about taking a break. I need to go get some, refresh my tasty beverage, which is water. It has been coffee. Okay, so I am definitely going to immediately save this. You guys can't see this on the other screen, but I want to look and make sure I know what the shot number is. This is 636. So file, save as -636. Okay, save it as a ping. Absolutely, we want to replace it. We also want to save it as a CRETA file, and now we're ready to rock on this shot. Now, in this shot, his head goes up and we want it to go down. I would say this. Let's see, we're asking for trouble with the transform mask, having to deal with so many layers. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to turn this group off, duplicate the group. Okay, now I'm going to take the transform mask, move it out here. Let's just apply it to something else. It doesn't matter what we apply it to, but I want to apply it to something else and turn it off so that this can then be merged. Okay, so now we just flattened out Vespigi, and now what we're going to do is we're going to apply the transform mask to him, boom, so that he's shrunk down, and now we'll save our work, but we should be able to safely flatten that layer. So what it should do is just apply the transform mask, and now we've got an easy situation because all we have to do is reverse the keyframes. Okay, so here's Vespigi. So I'm not even going to think about this too much. I'm just going to take this entire sequence and hit mirror frames. So everything's going in reverse now. Ash. So he says, Asher. Okay, so we do have a problem. I'm going to go ahead and undo. Let's just undo these steps. This is what undo is for. I'm going to turn the mouth off. We don't want the lip sync in there. And I would say I really want the cast shadow to be separate as well. So yes, so this is what we're going to freeze. Remember, we've got the full copy of everything we did before there already anyway. So now we should be able to merge this group, apply the transform mask to it, turn that on, and flatten that layer. So now we've got everything baked together in a way that's easy to manipulate, and we can worry about the lip sync later. So number one, I do want to definitely run this in reverse. So let's just do that. And of course, that results in a blank frame at the beginning. So we'll just move everything to the west. Okay, now I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to basically pack this together. And I'm just ignoring Carliana at the moment. I don't care about her. And, I mean, nothing personal, Carliana. But now I'm going to go ahead and put Vespigi in a group again. And save my work. Okay, so now, why did I do that? Well, number one, now we can actually adjust this back into kind of sort of where it's supposed to be, number one. Number two, we can add the lip sync and just create a patch. Let's just create a patch layer on Vespigi. His body, you know, and by the way, it looks like, yes, it looks like the flattened layer was not pinned to the timeline by default. I have no idea why, and I'm going to save this I think what I would like to do here is I'm going to get rid of that transform mask. But then one by one, I am actually going to take all these layers and unpin them from the timeline, just so that I can close the group and lock it and save it, and I've got my backup copy, but it's not cluttering up the timeline with a bunch of layers that I'm never even going to look at, you know. So there. So we'll close that up, turn that off, and even lock it. Okay, there we go. Save our work. Boom. Okay, so now we're going to have problems with color sampling on the, because of the shadow. So it's probably better for what I'm doing now to just turn the shadows off. All right. So in the storyboard, Vespighi's characterization actually kind of goes up, not down. Okay, and I want to get rid of this keyframe right here. Let me see, does anything change right there? There's a little wrinkle, and then his eyes come up. I don't want this. Let's get rid of that. Not for this shot. In fact, I don't even think I want this one. So this gives him about 2/3 of a second. And what is this? It appears to me... Okay, yeah, this should actually be here. There we go. Asher. Okay, yeah. So now what I'm going to do is on the next frame, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of liquefy to dial this expression in, and if I wind up not liking what I did, no big deal, I'll just delete the keyframe. So this is going to be definitely a subtle maneuver. Frankly, Vespighi doesn't know whether to be angry or confused at this moment, because the whole thing's a little strange. Asher! Yeah, I love it. Save our work. We'll worry about the lip sync later. I don't care about the mouth. What I do care about is getting this patched up so it doesn't look stupid. So we're going to do one little trick. We're going to use one little Krita trick that you may not know. And... watch and learn, my friends. Watch and learn. Technically, this layer should probably actually be above Vespighi, because, truthfully, we cheated a little bit on the prior shot, and we did not really show his robes when we actually should have. So I'm jumping back to the video edit to find... There we go. Let's find Vespighi. And yes, so we need purple. Okay, so going back here, what I want to do is use the G key to just boop, 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 just a little bit like that. Okay. And then, I wonder if technically this should actually be all the way up into there. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So this is a little confusing because it's both in front of and behind. So if I really wanted to play it safe, what I would do is I would actually just liquefy this into shape like so. And then be done with it. Okay, and just for completeness, let's just kind of put a little bit of wrinkle action in here. Okay, that wasn't supposed to be there. Undo. So let's just put a little bit of wrinkle and outline on this, just to give it a little life, like that. Okay, this does not belong. And then we're just going to animate that. So as you can see, the essentially positioning of the cloth seems to change when in fact the positioning of the wrinkles doesn't, and that just makes the whole thing seem a little more organic anyway, so it's all good. Okay, so we'll put that. And I suppose if we really want to be strict about it, we probably should do a little better job of painting that. So for those who don't know what the heck's going on, of course, this is the Animation Truman Show, which means there is no curated content here. There is no typical YouTube stupidity trying to promote subscribing and viewership at every opportunity, but rather this is the boring, grueling, real-world work of just creating a cartoon. That's what I'm doing, friends. That's what I'm doing. Okay, now, if that feels good, then we can go ahead and patch the rest from there. Okay, we've got a delay. That did not work, so let's just get rid of that. I like it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put a layer under him. Okay, and now here's what we're going to do. Let's just keep it loose, friends. So step one is to just kind of feel the overall shape of his anatomy. So we'll get that in there, okay? That's fine. Now, how would the hair fall over that? Well, it'd be something like this. So let's just kind of go like that. And then the Krita trick I mentioned earlier, okay, so obviously there's a little bit of an issue. We've got two ways we can play that. We can copy it here and just do that, which is probably better because I think his hair would fall a little bit, but it wouldn't fall that much, right? So let's go back here. Hello? And by gum, we need to put a keyframe in there. Your silly goose. Okay. Yeah, I'm not liking this. I actually feel like this should all be in front, but the problem is, let me redo this. Let me redo it this way. If we put this first frame in, what I'm feeling like we want to do here is bake it down and then just deal with the inevitable issues that come up one at a time. Okay, so now we've got some stuff working and some stuff that's broken, but that's okay. The trick I was going to show, which I guess I'm not really going to do now, is to go to the layer styles and actually put a stroke around the Spiegel. So if we put just like a 1 pixel stroke, it's going to punch up the outlines just a bit, as you can see. And I'm not thrilled with 1 pixel. Really doesn't do enough. So the reason not to do it now, the reason to paint it by hand, is because it's going to punch up the outline here too much because it's already got an outline, and here not enough. So it's like kind of pointless. So I'm just going to take the layer style and turn it off. Turn off stroke. Okay. I guess the way to do that would be to go to layer style and go like that. Okay. Layer styles are now out. A moment ago they were in, but now they're out. All right, so G key. So now what we want to do is basically get the basic drawing right. Okay? So I'm going to say let's expand his beard situation. Something like that. And I don't care about ink lines or anything like that at this point. I just want the basic idea to look about right. Okay. Now we go to the next keyframe. And I'm going to say, actually the easiest way to deal with this is going to be to select it. Watch this. Control C. Let's go to the next keyframe, hit Control Shift V, and then Just move it a little tiny bit, and then Control C, Control Shift V, move it again just a little bit, just so it's got a little bit of life to it. Control C, Control Shift V. Okay. Basically, that gets us to where we want it to be. Except that something is wrong here. In other words, I don't know why I keep having this third keyframe showing up. That's really not even supposed to be there. I guess I had forgotten that I eliminated the one keyframe on his eyes, or I'm not seeing it actually. I'm not seeing it now. I might have to reproduce the liquefy operation up here. Not the end of the world, but anyway, so now we just have a little bit of patching to do. G key, freehand path tool, let's just kind of close this stuff up. Let's just close it up. Okay, B key, boom. Now what we're going to do is just kind of go through the keyframes one by one and make them feel good. Everything's in motion, so we've got some latitude. Your eye isn't going to register something that's not exactly correct between one frame and another. Our eyes are notoriously bad at that, actually. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, that was getting too sloppy. Boom, boom, boom. Whoops. Z key, Z key. Okay. Boom, boom. So I'm just punching up these edges. Zuko, what are you saying over there, little buddy? Zuko, the African gray parrot, is saying something, and I don't know quite what he's saying. It's definitely English, but it is not readily recognizable. So, N key. There, he said it again. 1, 2, 3. Well, darn it. I got sloppy on that last line. 5 key, N key. We're getting close. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another shadow layer. SHD, black, G key, so that we can just keep it easy, smooth, loose. Okay, and I'm going to run that right up close to the old shadow. Let's set this to, well, let's try 13 and see what it looks like. 13 looks about right, actually. Okay, good. And this is actually on the third keyframe, so sorry about that, friends. Okay, good. Now what we can do, I think we'll put something there too. Okay, so now what we can do is we're going to work backwards. Stop. Krita just did something really stupid, I think. I guess not. Okay, I'm going to actually just copy both of these keyframes. And now here, A key. Let's liquefy it. I'm just going to use a really broad brush because I just want to move it just a little bit. Just give it a tiny smidgen of life. Okay? Ta-da! Perfect. Great. Awesome. Love it. Now we're ready to do lip sync, which I'm not going to do. And we can turn on Shadow 2, which, as you guys can see, there are no animated keyframes on Shadow 2. So let's just squish it around. Let's just squish it around, friends, and we will love it. Okay, and what happens if we put this in overlay mode? Definitely punches up the saturation in a way that I think I don't particularly like. So We'll leave it at that, friends, with a little bit of a squirk over that way. You know, something like that would be good. Okay, so there's the Speaky. All right, let's turn Carliana back on. Not in the sexual sense, of course, but in the sense of activating her frames. So this is useless. Actually, I really think I just want these two frames. So what I'm going to do to keep my life simple is I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to take the secondary shadow and move it out. Everything else, and by the way, why is the background in Carliana's group? There we go. Okay, let's flatten this. Let's merge the group. Actually, strike that. Let's not be stupid. Let's make a copy. Let's make a copy and lock it. I don't mind making the copy without the shadow in there. That's okay. Because remember, we always have the other shot that this was derived from anyway. This is 636. And the one that we started with is 631. So we still have 631 if we ever needed to get the layer groups back anyway. So not that big of a deal. Okay, so we made a copy. And now what we're going to do is bake this down by using merge group. And just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to contemplate the idea of adding a transform mask to her as well to just bring these two into better balance, like so. And with that, we will flatten the layer. Usually if it's just a one-dimensional thing, just adding a transform mask to a single layer, it's usually a pretty efficient operation that's not very problematic. So now what I'm going to do is Control G to call this the new Carliana group. And then I'm going to put this in the group. Hello. You're supposed to be on top, you silly thing. And by the way, I'm going to rename this K Shadow 2. So we've got K and we've got V. I didn't do that up here, but I should have. Okay. So now, actually, back to what I said before. Because we do have 631, I'm just going to delete this rather than take the time to unpin all the layers from the timeline. Okay? So, forgive my laziness, but there it is. All right. So that expression's fine. So I am going to actually remove these keyframes and remove frame and pull. Okay? So let's just look at what she does. Okay, all this stuff with the grinding teeth, forget it. That doesn't fit in this shot. So we're going to have to redo her mouth for sure. Yep. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually have her do this because it kind of makes it feel like she is... Wow, that was actually almost correct. So, wow. So if Speaky says, Asher. And... Come on, rewind, please. Asher. Who is it? So what she actually says is, what? What? Okay, I am going to get rid of that frame and move these ones downstream. Okay. So she says, what? Who? So when she says who, we need to go, Krita, stupid Krita. I don't want to grab the column, you completely brain dead program. All right. It's fun to rant at Krita. It's like I think Krita's alive. Krita's a person. Krita lives to make my life miserable. I'm kidding, people. What? Who is... Okay, and this, I basically don't like this at all. I'm getting rid of it. Gone. Forever. Save that. Whoops. What? Okay. So, Carliana, I would say, a little bit of, Wilbur, right on. Why the minus in the file names? That goes back to way back when I started Salt and Light, and I was saving the Krita files as ORA files, which is the native format for my paint. And the reason I did that is because other than animation data, all of the layer content was accessible from inside the Aura file because you could change ORA to zip, and it turns out it was just a zip file. Now, actually, Krita files are the same way. A KRA file is actually just a zip file. The mistake that the Krita developers made is that the only part of the Krita file, if you look inside of it, it is binary and sort of opaque and obfuscated, is the animation data. So all of your layers are just plain old ping files inside of a Krita file. And then there's an XML file that describes the layer structure. Okay? But once you do animation frames, each of these individual frames is not a ping file. It's some binary format where they pack all the animation data, probably just to save the only what changed from frame to frame, you know, or something. But so unfortunately, I wish that weren't the case, because then you could grok the Krita image file format and actually write your own animation tools, you know, that just save it as a Krita file that's then openable in Krita. But I always looked at that as one of those areas where the Krita developers, as I like to say, get two yards from the 100-yard line and then fumble the ball. You know, they always come that close to having the program be so customizable, you know, so controllable, so able to be enhanced with third-party tools. But when they do that, they always do it in the most opaque way. So what they have done, which is good, is you have the ability to do Python scripting. But the manner in which you access the scripts is still very opaque. In other words, the mistake that the Krita developers have made perennially is this. And if you read the book Unix Programming, which is one of the seminal tomes on programming and sort of programming philosophy, they commit the crime of opacity all over the place. All over the place. So instead of having the format, for example, for resources be a completely transparent, preferably not XML, but just some text-based file format that any idiot could open up in a text editor and tweak, instead of that, you know, you have like these opaque binary formats. So the problem with that, the only problem with that really, is that now you depend on the fact that the developers were smart enough and skilled enough to create an interface through which you interact with that data, which is almost always stupid, because the truth is you don't know what users are going to do, and basically the total mass of users in total are smarter than you are. They're always smarter axiomatically, right? So no, it's the sign, the minus sign is not required. There's nothing about the minus sign. I can't even remember what the reason was. It had something to do with OpenTunes interpreting the raster image sequence or something. I don't remember what the reason was. But the minus is just a legacy holdover that in order to change from the minus sign, I would have to bulk rename all the files, and that would break the image sequence in Vegas. It would break all of this because all the images wouldn't be found, and it's just a big hassle of a step that I would have to take for no good reason. So that's the story behind that. Sorry for the long-winded explanation, but there it is. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the road here. With Carliana, what we want to do, guys, is we want to go down here and probably let's grab her mouth like that and XV. So we'll put her mouth on a separate layer. Okay. Now, why do we have this key here? Is that the mouth? It's not. Okay, I didn't think so. So why would that key be there? That's a little strange. That's weird. So it appears that there is a keyframe. Oh, I see. It's just being deleted. That makes sense. Okay, so that's fine. So what we actually want to do here is go to Carliana, fill that in. So take the G key and let's just close that. Close her vast mouth. Erase her mouth here and erase her mouth here. We don't need them in there. And of course, this keyframe is a duplicate, so technically we don't even need that keyframe. Okay? So why did we do that? Well, now, fundamentally, we can actually just go ahead and move her mouth around. And so there's that. But also we can go ahead and introduce the lip sync. Okay, now that's interesting. So now we must have something that's not pinned to the blasted timeline. Why are we seeing her move around, but we don't see any keyframes? Okay, why it didn't? Why it didn't pin it to the timeline? I just do not get that. But okay, whatever, Karina. Okay, and by the way, since we're here and we can, I'm gonna do a quick and dirty mod here on this woman's jowls. There we go. So this is just going back to the previous keyframe. So let's, I guess for the moment, we'll assume we want that. But why did that just happen? I must have copied the wrong keyframe. Sorry. My bad. Back to the beginning. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. That'll work. Okay. So the Spiegel says, okay, so this pair here needs to be moved downstream. We want all of our attention on Vespigi. And by the way, I actually want to completely reverse that. So we're going to put this tween here. Asher. Okay, this happens too soon. You don't have time to register the completion of his dialogue and then her movement. So what? Okay, let's go to her mouth and get it done. I'm going to do this in the simplest way possible. And by the way, I want to fix this right now. You can see this is something we complain about with Open Tunes into Homa dealing with raster images, but actually Krita has the same problem where if you look really closely, it actually pukes on the alpha border around a selection. There's really no reason why something that's only going to transparent should create a halo when the underlying color is the exact same color. That makes absolutely no sense, and yet there it is. So, all right, so let's go here, and we're going to really carefully make a selection. And I think I'm going to go ahead and actually liquefy that too a little bit like that. And then I can always tighten up the well, you see that? You see what I'm talking about? So why would that halo be introduced? There's absolutely no good reason why the software should introduce a halo. I didn't do anything with the color around the border other than possibly modify its transition from opaque to transparent, and the underlying color is the exact same color. So well, it just doesn't make any sense. But it's probably one of those things in Krita it's been that way forever, and basically there aren't enough people doing credible animation to have ever noticed it. And animation in particular would be considered that if you were doing a still image, probably the resolution of your image would be 4 times the size of a broadcast HD animation frame, and that means the artifact that I'm showing here would not be visible. It would be smaller. It would be smaller than the resolution of a single pixel. You know. So yeah, see ya, Maria. Okay, so let's just keep rocking here. I'm gonna go ahead and allow myself a little bit of a suggestion of her teeth. And of course, Krita, ASAP, you got to be ASAP, meaning as stupid as possible, always switches to curve resolution on the freehand path tool, even though that is an option you will only want probably about once every 6 or 7 years. Utterly useless. The tool is amazing, but the default settings for the tool are brain dead. Brain dead's a good word for it. But again, to be fair though, I will say that, like I was saying a moment ago about this artifacting, the truth is, if you were doing high resolution still art, which is really Krita's DNA, you know, because the resolution is so much higher, that curve interpolation probably would not bother you, because the way it smooths it out would be so small relative to your entire drawing that you wouldn't be noticing it all the time, like we do here working on animation. So okay, I am gonna just do it this way. I'm gonna actually go like that. So some of the things that I complain about certainly are things that if you weren't doing animation, you might not notice them, frankly. But yeah, that's just opinion. I don't know. I don't know enough people that are doing, you know, like, I don't know, fantasy art or something in Krita. There's people I don't know out there, like David Reboy, of course. So let's just do this. And as you can see, we can see the artifacting again. Boy, that's annoying. That is so annoying. I probably have these little artifacts. You probably can't see them, but you know, they're probably throughout the show and I've just never noticed. Okay. What? Okay, so now I want to go to here, and probably this I should paint. Think about this for half a second. I am going to say, just hello. Seriously, dude? Okay, so now Krita's decided to go back to Krita 3 mentality, where it will not, no matter how hard you try, it won't change the size of your brush back to its default. Even though for 12 versions of Krita, it's been normal behavior for it to always revert back to the size of the brush. That was one of those developer hubris moments where they decided that people would, after years of having it work one way, they decided, what I tell you what happened is one person on a forum crowed about it a lot, and the developers believed that that was the will of the community, and so they made a change in the software without ever bothering to ask anybody, changing a long-held default which is really not usually a good idea. So in other words, what am I talking about? When you switch from brush to brush, or even if you're on one brush, like if I change the size of the brush, if I switch back to the same brush, it should revert back to its default size. And right now it's not happening. I'm switching between the brushes, and now it did. After I did it a couple times, it did. But and it's not that I don't see a value in brushes that remain whatever size you put them at. There is a value to that. But I don't like when the defaults change without telling me. Anyway. Rant, 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 rant. Rant, rant, rant. Okay, so now we'll go back to this. I better get some context here. What time is it? 2:02. Okay, I would say what I want to do here, actually the way to do it in this case is to select this mouth, Control C, and then go to here and go Control Shift V and just paste it over it. You know, unless it... Oh, my stupidity. Sorry about that, guys. Control Shift X. I forgot that the mouth is on its own layer now. Okay, now let's feel the timing here. There's something about this that isn't working. What? Yeah, the blink is too soon. So let's assume that you would want the blink before a change in attitude, perhaps. Okay, good. And now I'm going to go like this. And then this should all come down a little sooner. And let me see the eyes here. Ah, those are some pretty angry eyes. But I think I want to ramp it up even slightly more. So I'm going to just use my brush and really dial this in carefully. And she's going to say, who is Asher? So we need some lip sync, but we can't really steal it from the old shot because her head was turned sideways and the mouth shapes would all be wrong anyway. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just create a couple blanks here. And what I'll do is use the G key. And it doesn't grab the color. Okay, seriously, dude? And I'm in the wrong layer anyway. That's another thing I'd love to change in Krita is I wish that when you select a cell that it also selects the commensurate layer. In point of fact, it doesn't. So you can select cells and you can even do editing of keyframes and all kinds of things all over the timeline. But if you start drawing, it's going to draw into whatever layer is actually selected over here. So not necessarily it's not definitively wrong in terms of how it works, but I find it not to be the greatest choice, Okay, so yeah, what I'm going to do is just just do it this way. And then we'll deal with outlines. Who is Asher? Actually, this could probably be... Okay, I think that'll work. Grab this color, G key, grab that. Probably I should be using my brush. Let's switch to the pen so we're actually getting a solid color for sure. Fill that. Yeah, I don't really want to use this mount, but maybe if I did a modification to it. A liquify. Yeah, I want her to look pretty sour, frankly. Okay, so now let's just touch this up. Let's switch back to our pencil. And now we're going to just go in and fix this up nicely. Who is Asher? Boom. So sometimes you draw lines and then you fill the spaces. Sometimes you draw shapes and then you just outline over it. It just depends. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back to here, grab that color, and then I'm going to hit the G key and be in behind mode. And by the way, I should probably be saving my work here a little bit. And now it'll fill in the space behind the lips. Isn't that clever? Nice, nice, nice. So for all my ranting about Krita, this is one of the things I love, is I love behind mode. It's super useful. Okay. What? Who is Asher? Who? Okay. Stretch that out at least probably 2 frames. Who is Asher? And that's coming too soon. Boom. Bop. Now that's too soon. So I'm just ripple editing by hitting Control Shift Alt. I'm sorry, Shift Alt. Just Shift Alt. This is quite nice, actually. I like that expression. Who is Asher? Okay. That is a little too high. I should say that's too high. And this one was too low. One of those dyslexia moments, friends. And Krita it's just quintessential Krita. As you can see here in the settings, configure Krita. Performance, animation cache. It's caching the animation in memory. And look at this. Enable background cache generation. So that means that Krita is going to figure out in the background while you're idle or maybe doing other things, it's going to figure out what the contents of the animation frames are supposed to look like. Okay? What Krita actually does is what you see here, where it has everything cached in memory except the thing you need to see. And then you just kind of hope. The solution is you have to hit play and actually play it once in order for it to actually fill the animation cache, like most of the time Why? I have no idea. I don't know what background caching is. You would think it would just, within a tenth of a second, it would be busy calculating it in the background, but it just doesn't. And it never has. So, there it is, friends. Other programs have their issues. That's one of Creda's. Okay, so I think this, let's try reversing these just to see how it feels, but I suspect this last keyframe is going to get deleted. Who is Asher? Yeah, I'm going to actually say, let's take this and just crunch it together so she's looking tight-lipped. Asher. And this can be gotten rid of. Probably one more frame forward on that, but let's give that a poke. What? Who is Asher? I like it. If the whole shot is actually doing a slow push in, it'll be a really nice looking shot. Okay, so let's get the lip sync on Vespigi and then we're done with this shot. So we'll call this MOUTH. We're going to do mouth. So we're going to do a keyframe here. G key. Insert. Turn that down. Okay, so I think that's it. So he says, Asher. What? Okay, this all happens too early. So since I selected them all, I can just take all this and move it downstream about a half a second. What? Oh, he doesn't say what. He says Asher. He only says Asher. So he says, Asher. She says, what? Who is Asher? I love it. I love it. Friends, this came out nice. This is shot number 636. Let's render this baby. And we will have this shot. D-U-N. That spells done if you're D-U-M, which spells dumb. 636. I am sniffling a lot today. So this is 636, 72 frames. It's really too long, but we'll just go ahead and render them. So this is really about 7 seconds, 56 frames really is about what it's going to actually want to be. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So let's go back over to Vegas. Can you set a shortcut for the tool setting the interpolation or create a custom variant? Tom, the simple short answer is this. This is going to sound snarky, but I swear to God, it's the truth. Everything in Creda that you would prefer for it to be able to remember settings, it doesn't. And everywhere where it really isn't necessarily as helpful, it does. So fundamentally, the simple reality is that filters can have presets, but tools can't. So that's the problem. Why is it a problem? Well, it's a big problem because everything they added in Creda 5 for the animated transforms, or keyframe animation, if you're willing to roll your own tweens, then you could have had a very functional, very controllable animation capability with the transform tool if the darn tool would simply remember the last setting. Why? Because let's say you want to do a camera zoom. Well, you take your whole group and you just do a scale of 110%. And then you go to the next frame, you just repeat it. The problem is you actually have to go in and change it to 110 every single time. Now, you can do it. It takes time. You know, it's like anything else. You can do it. But it's just a total pain in the butt that would be solved by the stupid tool just remembering the last thing it did. You know, and maybe have an option to either remember it or go to the default. I don't really care. But if they would have added that, the animation capabilities in Creda would have been vastly expanded in a way that's stable a year and a half ago. For the simple reason that all you're doing is providing a better interface to the tools that are already mature. That's what I was talking about, opacity in an interface. The problem is that the developers have provided an interface where the only way you can get at the functionality of the tools is through the interface that they chose to give you. The reason I call that hubris is that the developer is assuming that, number one, they have a good idea, number two, they'll implement the idea well, and number three, they'll have a good idea about what the interface to that idea is, and number four, that they're going to do a good job of implementing that. In Krita, what you have is an enormous number of very good ideas with modestly pretty good ways to get at those tools and extremely buggy implementation of all of the above. That's Krita. And over time it gets better. I expect version 5 to get a lot better actually over the course of the next year because they do address these things. It just takes time and it is what it is. So if the darn tools would just remember their settings, yeah, exactly. That's what I would do. It's a checkbox. Just remember the last setting for this particular tool. And I would be cursing that sometimes because I would have it set to something and then I'd want to really quickly invoke the tool and it would use the last setting and it would not be what I wanted. So either way, you know, to some degree I'd be complaining for sure. I freely admit that. Okay, so let's go down here and here's 636. And right now it's just a static image, so we're going to cut that out, go to here, and we're going to load up 636. 636, where are you? There you are. Render should be 72 frames. We're going to open the sequence. It's at 8 frames per second. Boom. There it is. We drag it into the timeline. And the reality is as soon as they quit yakking, ooh, it's Asher. Boom. Right there is where that shot should end. So there's that. There's that. Okay, so it is, we're a little over 2 hours today, and we've gotten 1, 2, 5, plus 6. So we've gotten 11 seconds done in about 2 hours. Guys, we're on pace. The pace is supposed to be 10 seconds in 3 hours. And we've gotten 11 seconds in 2 hours. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All I'm saying is it proves you can create a show in a reasonable time frame because at the pace I'm working with some latitude, it means I can generate a 24-minute episode from total start to finish in 4 months, maybe 3. It's doable. It can be done, guys. I'm telling you, it can be done. So here we go. Carliana and Vespigi are a little freaked out. And by the way, this needs to be disable resample. So we got them. What's going on here? This is the work of Asher. Asher? What? Who is Asher? Asher. There we go. All right, I quit. Unless anybody has a question, I'm going to go ahead and take a break from live streaming. Don't know if I'll be back. I'll probably do some work offline and just have the, because I want to experiment a bit with, okay, if I'm not live, because right now I'm moving pretty fast. Frankly, I'm feeling a little hubris myself because I'm feeling like I'm doing a good job. But I want to check my ego at the door, and it would be interesting to look at, okay, if I'm not live streaming, does that pace actually increase a little bit or decreasing? Normally, I'm about a third slower when I'm live streaming because I'm yakking, because I'm talking, and I don't focus as much. So I had actually considered really cutting back on the live streaming just to enforce the discipline of just getting the work done, focus on the work, doing what I do in blissful anonymity. By the way, this actually has an error. We need to add an extra layer here. Forgive me for a moment where I correct myself. This is going to be the B key, and I am going to just add this outline here on Vespigi's garment. and I don't necessarily mind. I don't know. I guess I'll try to be a little more meticulous about that. But I'm really missing that line there. I don't know that that needs to be changed. It doesn't. It looks like we're good. So actually, we can just re-render. In fact, strike that. I'm going to bake this down. So Control E. And now we're going to re-render. And we're basically done. So yeah, you bet, Tom. We will see you later. And maybe I'll be back later today. You know, possibly in the afternoon. Maybe not. We'll see. So